Welcome to the Pregnancy Help Podcast. I'm Christine Grimmett, and here with me is Beth Deemert. She's our Director of Affiliate Services at Heartbeat International. And we are talking with Lauren Laboda from CrisisPregnancySupport.com. They're a newer ministry. They're talking about how they're meeting needs of women who are facing an unplanned pregnancy through the use of technology. So we'll learn more about Lauren and her team in just a moment. This episode is sponsored by the Abortion Pill Rescue Network. Now, we know by now that a lot of women who take that first dose of the abortion pill often regret that decision, but it may not be too late to reverse the effects of the abortion pill. The abortion pill reversal process is effective, and statistics show that over 4,000 lives have been saved so far. You can partner with us to continue this life-saving work as a pregnancy help organization, a medical provider, or a supporter by visiting www.aprnworldwide.com. So Beth and Lauren, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lauren. It is great to have you here, and I'm so excited and anxious to hear all about what you're doing. And so PregnancySupport.com and life coaching, I know, is really at the crux of the work that you do. So give us a little background, help us understand really what the organization does. Let's start there.
Sure. So we're a team of life coaches. There are 7 life coaches on our team, and including a licensed counselor. And so we're a team that uses Zoom, and we offer free services, free life coaching services by using Zoom. We are free to any woman in a crisis pregnancy. So any woman that we get connected with somehow emails us or goes to our website and asks to join our course. It's 12 weeks. We just finished our first 12-week course. As it was said earlier, we're a new ministry, and we're going to start our second 12-week course January 10th. And we'll go every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so the moms join us via Zoom. They sign on. We use the webinar option so that they don't have to show us on their camera or talk on their microphone, and they can just listen, or they can be coached live. They can put their video on and their microphone on to ask questions, or they can chat questions. And a different coach coaches every week. And so it's a group life coaching course.
Wow, how exciting and new, like you said. And so we want to hear more about this. So I want to back up for a minute. You said the mom finds us somehow. Let's talk about somehow. I mean, I love the idea that this is online, especially in the world that we're living in post-pandemic, in the world that we're living in with our target clients being in an age range that is much more comfortable with an online format sometimes than an in-person. So give me a little bit more of an understanding of connecting somehow. Are you out there with your website? How does that happen exactly?
Yeah, I use that word intentionally, and you're probably thinking, why did she say that? Because we really are new. So we're kind of figuring it out as we go. We hope that they find out about us through the pregnancy centers, but we realize quickly that there's thousands of them. And so that's kind of hard to contact them all. And that was one of the main reasons of contacting Heartbeat International, was just to let the centers know that this exists, because really we are like step 4, maybe 5, right? So a mom probably isn't going to type in something online when they're just finding out they're pregnant, and they might type something and find our site, but I doubt they're going to want to do a 12-week life coaching course. They're not thinking like, oh, well, I'm so excited to learn about anxiety and stress and how to calm down, and 12 weeks, I can't wait. They're probably thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm pregnant, and wanting to go somewhere physical. So obviously the pregnancy center would be there where they would go. And then they would connect with someone where they can, be in person with. And then of course they have their medical needs and they have physical needs, right? And we don't offer any of that.
Okay. I, first of all, want to say welcome aboard. Come on in. The water is fine. I love that you're formally really getting involved with our pregnancy help community. Yeah. Secondly, I would like to say, you brave woman, because what I'm hearing is a big vision and a desire to serve, full of passion and really connect with these young moms, and then putting really sort of your money where your mouth is and making it happen. And so I really commend that and say kudos to you for taking the steps to make it happen. And it sounds like, Lauren, what you envision is the idea that a little bit later in her pregnancy, when things have maybe calmed down a little bit and she's settled into, I'm going to carry to term, I need support, that would be a good time for a center then to be referring this client to you, maybe for some life coaching. Do I have that right?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. But yeah, of course, that is the idea. However, we all know life isn't always perfect, right? So things don't always go maybe in the order that we think they should. So of course, they might be halfway through our course and say, oh, wait, I don't have this. And then we'll say, well, where do you live? We'll find, your local center. And so it's not like they're only going to come to us when they're totally done and then never go back. It might be cyclical. It might, go backwards. It's not like it has to be a certain way.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I think, what makes sense, in so like the human needs hierarchy, they're probably going to get some physical things figured out, some medical things. I mean, I'm sure they're going to want, ultrasound and pregnancy tests, right, before they do life coaching. But again, they'll find out things about their baby. Maybe they'll find out gender in the middle of our class, or maybe they'll find out needs, or, and just like we're here, I want to say long-term, but a little bit longer than just one or two initial, you just found out you're pregnant meetings. We're doing 12 weeks, which is longer. And it probably is going to be towards the end, or even during like not during birth, but like after birth, there might be postpartum for a little bit. I know that pregnancy centers can be with the mom too, after, postpartum. And so then we might refer back to parenting class. And again, we don't have anything, like we don't give them any sort of baby supplies, or, and we don't teach in life coaching. It's called life coaching, but really I want to be a little more specific for people who aren't aware of it. It's really mindset coaching. So we're not talking about those other practical things either. It's like, we don't do parenting class. We don't do birthing class. We don't talk about labor and delivery. We really just talk about mindset. And because that's what we know, that's what we do with our clients in our business. And so we're just applying it to the situation, but it's all the same themes.
Yeah. And I think, for that reason, and all of the reasons that you've already stated, it really stands for a great partnership with a pregnancy center. Centers do a lot of times that initial, and they want to follow up and they want to offer their services. And many clients will take advantage of those things, but maybe an extra need is a little bit more of a one-on-one situation where they can express some of their particular needs or thoughts. And this kind of life coaching, 12 weeks, will meet that need. So it sounds like a really good hand-in-hand extra layer to what pregnancy centers are doing for the support of the client, which is, of course, what we're all about and what I hear you wanting to be all about. So that's great. I took a look at your website and some of your life coaches, and overwhelmingly, the thing that impressed me the most is that they are all moms, and a lot of them, I would say the majority of them, are moms of many children. Looks like some big families represented in your life coaches. Want to talk about that a little bit? Who your people are, who your life coaches are, and kind of what's behind all of that?
Sure. So with the reversal of Roe, I think I was just trying to be open to what I could do. I felt, whether it's true or not, that maybe I could do something that I couldn't do before. I think it's true. And how could I help, women in a crisis pregnancy? So just really through prayer, I really felt called to take the life coaching work and apply it to this situation, with the thought that there will probably be more pregnant women and therefore more pregnant women in need, right? More pregnant women that won't maybe be vulnerable to abortion as before. And so I went to my coach. Sterling Jakewith has a Made for Greatness program. And that was a program that I'm in past couple of years, have been a client of. And she's also a business coach. And so, trying to figure out, okay, you have your life coaching business, you're thinking of a nonprofit. How would this all work? And right away, she just said, us pro-life people, the whole world's looking at us right now. We said we would be there for the moms, and now it's time. And what are we doing? She goes, I'll volunteer, an hour a month. I could coach one Tuesday a month, and I could find you some more. So she found me a few more. And then through their program, they were trained in at the Life Coach School. And I made connections through church friends with a mom, a teacher, a pro-life mom of 5 who wanted to help. And then I asked Luke, who's a licensed counselor, and in my business, we work together because I collaborate with him when I feel like someone might need therapy and vice versa. So that's who's in the group. And they tend to do once a month, maybe once every other month. They're there. So that's good because they're able to, do their life, their family life, their business, but they still want to do something, but it's not overwhelming. So I'm the one coordinating it all. So it takes a little bit more time. But at this point, the costs are low, a website and Zoom. And so we fundraise for that. But, we're doing what we can to get the word out. So.
Well, I love, again, your vision and your passion. And I love your authenticity that's just kind of sharing this is what we are trying to do. And here's how we're trying to do it. And believe me, there are many pregnancy centers that were started in that very same fashion that are now thriving. Again, back to your life coaches, just looking at their credentials, there are some pretty impressive credentials here, and looks like really sweet, kind women who just want to help other women. And, at pregnancy centers, we really do advocate for the idea of empowering women so that they can advocate for themselves. And I see this life coaching really contributing in that way. Give us a little bit of an idea, Lauren, about what a life coaching session would look like or sound like.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I know it's a new field and life is such a generic term, right? And so is coaching. So I want to define it a little bit better. And I said earlier that mindset coaching is a better term, because that's really what we do. You can find a wellness coach, a financial coach. And yes, we are coaching about life. So it's a little bit more specific when we say life. So mindset coaching is really just looking at your mindset. So what are you thinking about a situation? So you can do mindset coaching on any topic, going back to, a financial coach, a wellness coach. You can talk about your mindset. What are your thoughts? What negative thoughts are you having? What untrue thoughts are you having? What lies are you believing, right? What true thoughts, but not really helpful thoughts are you focusing on, right? And so you can imagine in any scenario, in the crisis pregnancy scenario, there's a thought that I shouldn't be pregnant, or I'm too young to be pregnant, or I don't have money to be pregnant. Now, of course, we don't deny reality, but we also point out that, our mindset can really affect how we feel. And so we're not ever going to deny that a crisis is a crisis, or that a woman is stressed or in need, right? That's why we're there. So we do believe that she's in crisis. However, a woman could be pregnant and think, wow, I've been trying to get pregnant for 10 years. It's a miracle I'm pregnant, right? So it's like, how are we thinking about the situation? Some women think they're too old to be pregnant. It's like, what does that mean? So it's a lot of questioning thoughts. But before we get into that, because that's a little like thinking about thinking, right? And cognitive behavioral therapy, that's a little more technical, and that doesn't sound fun. So we start with just stress management. We just start with the 4 trauma responses. So when you are in a stressful situation, do you respond in fight, flight, fawn, or freeze? And we go into that. And then just how you regulate the emotion. How do you feel the emotion and process the emotion? So that's the first 2 weeks. After that is self-confidence. And I know I said earlier, like, we just take what we use with our clients and we gear it towards a woman in crisis pregnancy. So it's really general things that we all go through. And I would say more women than men. in my experience. Self-confidence. I mean, we all have that issue at some point about something. In this situation, we're assuming they're not confident in pregnancy or in parenting, or they already have a child, so they're not confident. Maybe they're confident they could have another because they had one, but they're not confident that they could have two, right? And so, and the list goes on, right? They're not confident that they could provide, and they're not confident they could finish college. And so, or confident they could maybe get married and that would work with this baby. So that list goes on. And then from there, we go to self-worth, because that gets a little bit deeper. Like, why do you even have confidence? Where does that come from? And for sure, there's a faith component to it. We're all practicing Catholics. However, mindset coaching has nothing to do with religion. So you could bring the Bible into it. You can pray with people, and you can also just ask them what their thoughts are. So far, the moms that signed up like this last 12 weeks, they came from contacts from churches, and they told us they were involved in their faith. So they didn't mind that we started in prayer, that when we got to self-worth, we brought up Bible verses of how, God created you, and that's why you have dignity. And I think we all know, like, Psalm 139 is how God created, us in our wombs. And of course we love that, but we wanted them to see themselves as God's daughter. Because that's also true, right? Not just, you should keep this baby because it's precious in God's eyes. It's true, but to focus on their self-worth. So it's a lot of self-work, self-confidence, self-work, interior work on themselves. But you can talk about self-worth without bringing up God. I mean, if someone wasn't open to it, you could say, do people in your life have worth? Do they deserve respect? Why is that? Don't you deserve respect, right? And how do you not respect yourself? Take care of yourself. And then with that can also come, I mean, it's hard to for me to rein this in because it depends on the person. Like, you can go off on so many different ways. Like, we could talk about self-care as taking prenatal vitamins and drinking water, right? So, or self-care is getting enough rest. So there's that, but that's kind of the general idea. And then we move on to forgiveness. I feel like that one always comes up. I think it's always good to bring the faith in, right? Because it's a big part of Christian faith is forgiving others and forgiving yourself and asking God for forgiveness. But again, we can take the scientific side of how, holding on to grudges or resentment affects you physically. Assuming in this situation, if they're feeling a lack of support, that they probably need to forgive the father or someone in their family. So there's that. There's sometimes shame the mom has herself. And so it's forgiving herself.
It reminds me of our core training that we use for client advocates in the center, which we call the love approach. And it's using love as a mnemonic. So breaking it down into the L, O, V, and E. And L standing for listen and learn, O standing for opening options. But V is really what's sticking out to me as you're talking. V is vision and value step, and helping her to either see a new vision for her circumstances or go back to one that she may have had before that got clouded over because of circumstances. And so really helping her to see it differently, to, like you said, change your mindset about what could be, even in the midst of these hard circumstances. So I love what you're saying. And again, I just think it's such another great layer of support for our clients to be able to process what's happening with them with some good coaching along the way. Because, we here at Heartbeat, when it comes to primarily the abortion decision, we'll often say that the best answer to an abortion is another person. We are all so relational and need that relationship. So having another person to coach us or to talk through these things with us can be really life-changing. And you're doing such an incredible job of that with this life coaching program. I know that you are using an online platform to do this, which, again, most people, when it comes to relational things, will say, well, you have to be right in front of someone or in person. Tell me how you're utilizing technology and how that's working in this situation.
Yeah. So we kind of didn't really think too much into it because we didn't really have another choice with the volunteers being in Idaho, Tennessee, Florida, and then us in Ohio. That was kind of just, well, that's how we do it. Us as coaches have clients all over. some of my clients are close by, but I'm just probably not going to realistically have a place to meet them physically, in my business, that is. And it's just easier. So I also know when I'm the client, now this is maybe not with the one-on-one, but since this is group, what we do with crisis pregnancy support is group coaching. I know when I'm in a group coaching course, sometimes it's like, I mean, I want to listen to the coach, but I'm trying to cook or I'm driving somewhere. So it is nice. They can just listen with the video off, they're muted, and get at least the instruction on what a life coach would teach you about those topics. And I apologize, I didn't finish. After forgiveness, we go into negative thought patterns. And then the last one is making decisions and plans. And then we're done for the 12 weeks. So, they get a lot of tips and help on how to think differently. And they can also hear the others being coached if someone else comes on without even really having to like drive somewhere. If they have kids already, figuring out childcare. And Zoom isn't the same as in person, even if the video and the camera on. So I think that's why it's a good partnership, because we're not going to offer anything that the pregnancy center would offer, but we do have something specific that I think is unique, as far as I know, in the pro-life area.
Yeah, you may not be giving yourself enough credit, because honestly, you're being very innovative without maybe even intentionally doing that. Circumstances caused you to have to do it this way. But, being able to offer this virtually is a huge asset, really. And specifically when thinking about our target audience, it is what appeals to them most. And thinking through too, though we want to be relationally involved, there is still that little bit of, in a virtual setting, I'm kind of protected here. It's not quite so invasive until I get used to it a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, I think you're doing a great thing and a great platform. I know you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation about needing to get the word out and working with pregnancy centers. And so we're glad we could have this conversation today, because it will be that exposure to centers. Tell us how centers can connect with you. They're interested in maybe pursuing this with their clients. How do they connect with you, Lauren?
Sure. So like I said, we're brand new. We do have 501c3 status, but we're still figuring all those logistics out. So right now they would email me at my work email, which is just my name, Lauren, Lauren, at lifecoachmama.com. So when you go to Life Coach Mama, you'll realize it's my business side. There is a link to the charity. If they want to know about the crisis pregnancy support, they can go to crisispregnancysupport.com. There they'll see pictures of our team and, like you said, descriptions of what they do and how many kids they each have. There are big families. And also the topics of the 12 weeks. And if you do, you can send a message through there. It just comes to my Life Coach Mama account. And yeah, we were open to helping any women. We realized that young and old and poor and rich, college students, there's a wide range, especially with the push for the chemical abortions, with the push for the abortion pill. And after starting the charity, I've noticed that a lot of people will use technology to get that pill, and from different states that they can't access from, and just what's going on there. So I figured, well, we need to work harder online to be chatting with them. Well, I know you guys are, but I'm just thinking like we also need to be there in that online presence, because like you said, the younger generation uses technology and they're obviously using it for that. So we're still thinking how to do that better, but I do have dreams of having something for fathers, because that is the other half of the situation. And men have offered. I've actually had more coaches asking me than moms asking me to be a part of it. So I have more coaches that I'm not putting on the team yet, and men that aren't necessarily like certified life coaches, but like they could do it. I could train them. I also had a great idea, and I have to give credit to Save the Storks, because they gave me the idea to offer pregnancy centers training and coaching for their volunteers if they thought that, and they might not want to do a 12-week Zoom, but this would be like in-person one-on-one. I mean, they could do however they want. But anything they heard me say today that they want me again, I could Zoom it wherever they are. Or if they live in Northeast Ohio, I could drive to their center and tell them about life coaching, kind of help train their volunteers to use some life coaching tools.
Yeah, that's a really big offer, and one that I think would be taken advantage of by centers in the positive way, not the negative way. Several of our centers use life coaching and are finding great results with it. So being able to be trained would be really helpful. Lauren, I love, again, what you're doing. I love your heart to do it and to serve women. I love that we're getting in at the very grassroots of what you're doing. And, again, so many of our centers have started this way. They understand innovation. They understand things have changed. How do we adapt? And so I think you're going to find that centers are going to be really open to this concept and not at all put off by the fact that it's all still really in formation. So thanks for being here with us today. Thanks for what you're doing. And we're looking for great connections to happen from this point forward. So blessings to you and your team. And again, thanks for being here. Christine, we'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Beth. To our listeners, be sure to subscribe. You can rate us on most listening platforms. We've received some really nice ratings. So thank you to those of you that have taken a moment to do that. And most importantly, share with a friend. So this is an easy way to share the work of the Pregnancy Help Movement, is to tell a friend about the podcast. So with that, I wish you all a great rest of your day. And thanks for listening to this episode of the Pregnancy Help Podcast.